Welcome to Sleepy Historian, where old tales whisper by candlelight and memories gently drift into dreams. Tonight, let us journey back to a time long asleep in history.
The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke and sweat. In the fading light of the 18th century, the Ottoman capital bustles around you. But here, within the high walls of the barracks, there's a different kind of energy. The men around you are the janissaries, the sultan's elite soldiers, a mix of loyalists and captives from across the empire. Some are Christian, some Muslim, united only by their service to the sultan. Your own story is one of many. You were taken from your family as a young boy, your village razed, or perhaps you volunteered to escape an oppressive life. Either way, you have served the sultan for over a decade now. You know every inch of these barracks, every creak of the training yard, every murmur of the prayer room. Life here is a tapestry of contrasts. There are moments of camaraderie, shared meals, laughter echoing in the courtyards. But there are also times of brutal discipline, of aching muscles from hours spent in the sun drilling formations, of the sting of the whip as punishment for a mistake. The janissaries were not just soldiers. They were a state within a state, a brotherhood forged in fire and loyalty. When they took you in, they took away your old life, your name, even your family ties. In return, they gave you a new identity, a new purpose. You were trained in the arts of war, in horsemanship and swordplay, in strategy and stealth. It was a tough existence, one that demanded obedience, endurance, even stoicism. Yet there were perks. As the Sultan's elite force, you enjoyed privileges denied to most Ottomans. You had access to better food, to grander housing, to the respect, even fear of those outside the Janissary ranks. But tonight, there is a different kind of tension in the air. Rumor has it that the Sultan is planning a new campaign, and the mood in the barracks is a mix of anticipation and dread. For the janissaries, war meant leaving the familiar routine of the barracks for the chaos of the battlefield. It meant facing not just other soldiers, but entire civilizations, entire worlds. It meant leaving behind the safety of the barracks walls for the uncertainty of the open field. Despite the hardships, there was pride. Being a janissary wasn't just about duty or obedience. It was about being part of something bigger than oneself, of standing shoulder to shoulder with your brothers in arms, of knowing that you were an integral part of the Sultan's army, the envy of the world. As the evening shadows lengthen, you find yourself standing before the towering gate of the imperial palace, the magnificent Topkapi. It's a structure that embodies the grandeur and mystique of the Ottoman Empire. Behind this gate lies the Sultan's court, a world of silken secrets, of power and peril. Today, you've been summoned to the Sultan's court. What brings you here? Perhaps it's a diplomatic mission, perhaps a reward for valor in battle, or maybe, just maybe, you're here to plead for mercy. In the heart of the Ottoman Empire, the life of a sultan was a gilded cage. Power was absolute, yes, but so was isolation. You've heard tales of Suleiman the Magnificent, the sultan whose reign was a golden age for the Ottomans. He was a warrior, a lawgiver, an artist, and a man of insatiable desires. But behind the legend, there was a human being, a husband, a father, a lover. And perhaps that's why you're here today, to unravel a bit of the Sultan as many lives. The year is 1566, and the location is none other than the famous Gate of Felicity in the Topkapi Palace. The air is thick with the scent of incense and anticipation. Before you stands the Topkapi Dagger, a jewel-encrusted dagger that is more than just an accessory. It's a symbol of power, a trophy, a silent witness to the drama that unfolds within the palace walls. According to legend, this very dagger was a gift from the Sultan's wife, a token of her favor, or perhaps a subtle reminder of her own power within the harem. It is a relic from a time when the Ottoman Sultan's court was a stage where every gesture, every gift, every glance could change the balance of power. Here, in the opulent setting of the imperial court, intrigue and danger often lay beneath the surface of a seemingly lavish lifestyle. The sultan's wives, while revered, were also rivals, each vying for their husband's attention, each protecting their own interests. And who knows? Perhaps you've been called upon to settle a dispute, to negotiate a marriage, or maybe to uncover a plot, a conspiracy that threatens the very stability of the empire. As you navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the palace, you can't help but wonder what secrets the Topkapi Dagger holds. What stories does it whisper of? What power does it symbolize? And what role will it play in the intrigues and dramas that inevitably unfold within the Sultan's court? And as the last rays of sunlight paint the sky with hues of orange and purple, you find yourself standing before the Sultan himself. The moment you've been summoned for is here. Now, whatever brought you to this moment, know that your life, like the empire itself, may never be the same. This is the end of our journey for tonight. As we finish, I invite you to leave a comment below. Tell us about a historical figure, event, or era you'd like to see us cover in the future. Who knows? Your voice might just shape our next adventure. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and above all, keep your minds open to the endless wonders of our shared history. Now close your eyes and picture a boy. He may be no older than 8, perhaps 12. He comes from a quiet village somewhere in the Balkans, a place where the air is heavy with the scent of pine and hearth smoke, where the rhythm of life is dictated by the seasons rather than armies. But one day that rhythm breaks. Ottoman officials arrive. They are part of the devshirme system, a levy that takes Christian boys from their homes and brings them to the empire's heart. For the child, there is little choice. He is taken from the familiar, from parents and siblings, and placed on a road that will reshape him completely. The empire calls it an honor, a path to greatness, but for the child, it feels like a sundering. His old life is stripped away like worn cloth. He is converted to Islam, taught a new language, given a new identity. The boy no longer belongs to his village, his family, or even himself. He belongs to the Sultan. Imagine him now walking through the towering gates of a great fortress, arriving in a place that will be his new home. Within its high walls is everything necessary for the creation of the Janissary. Inside, he will train, live, eat, sleep, and eventually die. The fortress is a world unto itself. In its center, a parade ground where the drills will take place, where the novice janissaries will learn to become soldiers. Around it, barracks to house the recruits, and later, when they are deemed worthy, actual janissaries. Facing the main gate, a mosque, not just for prayer, but also for study. Here the boys will learn the tenets of Islam, history, and mathematics. Facing the parade ground is the kitchen, a place of both toil and camaraderie. For while the cooks prepare the meals, they too are watched and their every movement timed. The head cook reports directly to the commander, and a bad stew might bring a reprimand that includes extra drills or even a flogging. Training begins almost immediately after a recruit's arrival. Picture rows of boys in uniform, rising before the sun. Their day is filled with the drills, marching, running, wrestling, archery, swordplay, learning how to be a shock troop, an elite force capable of breaking enemy lines. Their instructors are older janissaries, men who have chosen to remain in the corps rather than be given an officer's succession and a desk. These men are hard and fit, their bodies honed by years of training and campaigning. To be a good janissary is to be utterly fearless, to go through life without care for personal safety. To be a good janissary is to be nothing if not obedient. A janissary is a tool of the state, and his only purpose is to do the Sultan's will. Slowly, the boy is molded into this ideal. His individual desires, his wants and needs, all cease to matter. The only thing that has value is the mission, the campaign, the Sultan. Meals are plain but nourishing: bread, rice, perhaps a thin stew of lentils or lamb, eaten in the communal home. There's little joy in the food, but also little waste. Every janissary must account for every bite. After training, the boys sleep, at first on hard floors or narrow cots, always surrounded by others, never alone. Here too, the message is clear. Individuality does not matter. The group does. It is stronger than any one man. As the years pass, the instructors will work the boys until their bodies are hard and fit, ready for the duties of the course. Some will become riflemen, holding the long, heavy weapons that are the cutting edge of Ottoman power. Others will be cavalry, masters of the saber and lance. Still, others will serve as artillery, moving great cannons that shake the very foundations of besieged cities. Each has his task, each is vital to the whole. At first, the young recruits may dream of escape, of returning home, of a different life, but slowly, through repetition, those dreams quiet. A janissary is not allowed to quit, not even for personal reasons. To do so is to abandon the sultan, to declare oneself a traitor. Yet there are moments of strange elevation within this harshness. Perhaps a recruit will hold, for the first time, a finely crafted musket, feeling its weight and polished wood beneath his hands. He will know then the pride that such a weapon inspires, the respect it commands. Or maybe he will march in formation to the beat of drums and pipes, the sound echoing through the courtyard, making his chest swell with belonging. He is part of something larger, something powerful. He is a janissary. Join us next time as we continue to explore the world of the Ottomans. Until then, keep learning. He was the longest reigning sultan in Ottoman history. His empire stretched from the edge of Europe to the edge of Arabia. Under his rule, the Ottomans became the wealthiest, most powerful state in the world. And yet, like all empires, his was built on obedience and loyalty. And those who failed to offer it, no matter how important, no matter how beloved, would find themselves exiled, disgraced, even put to death. But who was this sultan? What made him so ruthless? And why does his story matter today? The first thing you should know about him is that his rise to power was anything but straightforward. His father died when he was just 12 years old. Then he spent years fighting for the throne against his own grandfather and brothers. And when he finally won, he had to contend with an empire on the brink of collapse. Rival princes kept seizing control of Anatolia. Internal rebellions threatened the heartland, and Europe was arming itself for war. And so, to secure his realm, Suleiman began by crushing the opposition. He executed 28 of his brothers and then turned his attention to the outside world. And here's where we meet one of the most fascinating characters in all of history, Pargalar, a former galley slave, and now the Sultan's right-hand man. He came from nothing, rose to everything, and was a key player in many of Suleiman's greatest victories. Together, Sultan and Vizier set out to remake the Ottoman state. They created new legal codes, reorganized the army, and launched a series of brilliant military campaigns that brought all of Anatolia under firm control. In fact, Suleiman earned the nickname Magnificent by conquering Belgrade, by defeating the Safavids in the west, by annexing huge parts of Hungary, and by laying siege to Vienna itself. That last one didn't work out so well. And when Suleiman returned to Istanbul, his son and heir, Mustafa, seized the capital and forced his own father into exile. But like his grandfather before him, the exiled sultan was able to raise another army, march back to Istanbul, and take his revenge. Mustafa was thrown into prison and later executed, and Suleiman was able to enjoy the rest of his life secure in the knowledge that his dynasty would continue through his second wife and her son, Selim. So what makes Suleiman's story relevant today? First, because he was one of the last great classical rulers. He was born in 1494, the year Columbus reached the Americas, and he died in 1566. The year Drake and Raleigh raided the Spanish Main, so he ruled over the Ottoman Empire during the very years when Europe was discovering the New World and starting its long journey to global domination. Second, because his empire was arguably the most successful of its time. While Europe was still recovering from the Black Death, the Ottoman state boasted the largest army, the strongest navy, and the grandest capital in the world. And third, because he remains a symbol of how quickly things can change in the world of geopolitics. At his accession, the Ottomans were a regional power. By his death, they were a global force. In other words, if you want to understand how states evolve and how seemingly unstoppable powers occasionally fall, the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent is a very good place to start. Now, if you're interested in finding out more about Suleiman's life and times, I highly recommend the book The Sultan's Wife by author Rebecca Albertson. The campaign against Belgrade lasted for 2 years. Every morning, Suleiman would watch from the ramparts as the Austrians sallied out, only to be driven back time and again. Can you feel the tension as the Ottoman arrows rained down, forcing the enemy back within the safety of their stone walls? Each day, the struggle was fierce, a desperate attempt by the defenders to break out, but Suleiman was prepared. He had laid siege to the city with an intricate system of trenches and tunnels, a silent, unseen threat beneath the ground. Then came the assault on the fortress, a deafening roar as cannons boomed, shaking the very foundations of Belgrade. Can you hear the clash of steel as the Ottoman soldiers scaled the walls, their Janissary muskets spitting fire? Inside the city, chaos reigned. Homes were lost, treasures abandoned, families torn apart by the violence and the fear of what might come next. As the last Austrian soldiers fell, the Hagia Sophia echoed with prayers of victory. For Suleiman, the conquest of Belgrade was not just about adding another city to his empire. It was a statement, a challenge to Europe. He ruled over lands so distant that messengers would take weeks to traverse the length of his empire, carrying news and orders from one end to the other. Imagine the vibrant bazaars of Constantinople, the bustling docks of Alexandria, the sun-baked streets of Damascus, and the far-flung outposts on the edges of the known world. Each place was unique, each had its own customs and languages. Yet they were all bound together by the authority of the Sultan and the shared identity of the Ottoman Turks. Under Suleiman's rule, this vast realm hummed with activity. Merchants haggled over silk and spices. Ships arrived laden with exotic goods from the East Indies and the Americas. And in the palace, scholars and poets refined the Ottoman language, creating works of art and words. Meanwhile, the Ottomans kept pushing westward. They seized Rhodes, long held by the Knights Hospitaller, and advanced into the heart of Hungary. Vienna itself seemed within reach. But Suleiman was not solely focused on territorial expansion. He wanted to transform his empire into a well-oiled machine, a grand design of laws and institutions. So he established provincial assemblies to advise local governors, created a new legal code, and reorganized the tax system. Even the janissaries were given a formal structure, becoming a permanent standing army. He gazed out at the star-studded sky from his palace in Istanbul, his mind as sharp and inquisitive as ever. Around him, scholars and scientists from across the empire gathered, eager to share their knowledge. Astronomy, mathematics, optics, and mechanics were not just subjects. They were puzzles to be solved, mysteries to be unraveled. The observatory became his classroom. With the help of his astronomer, Taqi al-Din, Suleiman studied the cosmos, charting the heavens and pondering the universe. This wasn't just a pastime for the Sultan. It was a way to understand the world, to see patterns and cycles that governed not just the stars, but perhaps his empire as well. Back in the palace, a team of calligraphers pored over ancient texts, copying and preserving them for future generations. These weren't just books, they were time capsules, each page a link to the past. Suleiman understood the importance of history, of learning from those who came before. So he built libraries, not just for scholars, but for anyone who had a question or a curiosity. To the Ottomans, knowledge was power, and power was best wielded with wisdom. The story of Suleiman the Magnificent is one of adventure, conquest, and cultural brilliance. However, what if I told you there was an enigma from his era that even history books often overlook? Enter the Topkapi Dagger, a relic whispering tales of the Ottoman Empire's glory days. Suleiman the Magnificent, the legendary sultan of the Ottomans, ruled like a god over his people. But even royalty has its down moments. Imagine being Suleiman. You've got the sprawling Topkapi Palace in Istanbul as your home. It was the nerve center of the Ottoman Empire. Picture yourself strolling through its opulent halls, each room telling a tale of bygone eras. But there's a twist. In one corner of this imperial mansion, tucked away from prying eyes, lay a secret. It wasn't gold or jewels that caught the Sultan's fancy, but something far simpler, a humble dagger. Mind you, this was no ordinary weapon. It was a masterpiece, an exquisite blend of art and lethality. History tells us that Suleiman developed an almost childlike fascination with this dagger. Why? Well, you'd have to ask the historians and archaeologists who've spent countless hours pondering over it. All we can do is share what they've uncovered. As the legend goes, this dagger played a pivotal role in a dramatic incident involving none other than Mustafa, the Sultan's son and heir apparent. Remember, we're in the heart of 16th century Istanbul. Politics can be a messy business even in the best of times. But during Suleiman's reign, things were anything but simple. Mustafa, groomed to carry on his father's legacy, found himself at the center of a power struggle. Was it jealousy, ambition, or a clash of ideologies? The annals of history are silent on the true motivations. All we know is that the relationship between Mustafa and his father turned sour. The once bright prospect of an imperial dynasty was shattered when Mustafa was accused of treachery and banished from the kingdom. Some say the charges were trumped up, a mere ploy to secure the throne for another. But we may never know the full truth. What is certain is that Mustafa's fate was sealed. History tells us that he didn't go quietly. He rebelled, aiming to dethrone his own father and plunge the empire into chaos. Can you imagine the magnitude of such a betrayal? A son turned traitor, challenging the very foundations of his father's rule. Caught in the crossfire of this family feud was the Topkapi Dagger. It became a symbol of the brewing conflict, passed from hand to hand, each movement laden with intrigue and menace. Then came the fateful confrontation. The details are lost to time, but the outcome is etched in stone. Mustafa met his demise at the hands of his own kin, executed on the orders of his father. The Topkapi Dagger, silent witness to this macabre drama, lay forgotten, perhaps tucked back into its hiding place within the palace walls. Fast forward to present day. The Topkapi Dagger is more than just an artifact. It's a portal to the past, offering us a glimpse into a world of intrigue, power, and betrayal. Today, it finds its home in a museum, drawing the gaze of historians and travelers from around the globe. Each curve and etching of the dagger's hilt seems to whisper stories of Suleiman's court. The very air around it seems thick with the echoes of bygone eras. If these four walls could speak, they'd surely spin tales of empires, and their end, of sultans and their sons, and a dagger that danced at the edge of their destinies. The Topkapi Dagger serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of power, the complexities of family dynamics, and the relentless march of time. It's a testament to human ambition, love, loss, and the unending quest for legacy. As we stand before this relic of the past, we're not just observing an object. We're connecting with the human drama that unfolded around it. We're reminded of the men who wielded it, the decisions they made, and the consequences that followed. It's a privilege to witness such a tangible link to our shared history. The Topkapi Dagger isn't just a historical artifact. It's a mirror reflecting the grandeur, the conflicts, and the complexities of a bygone era. It compels us to remember, to learn, and to reflect on the enduring legacy of the Ottoman Empire and the enigmatic sultan, Suleiman the Magnificent. So the next time you find yourself in Istanbul, take a moment to visit the Topkapi Palace. Gaze upon the dagger and let its silent stories resonate within you. For within its depths lie not just metal and stone, but the soul of an empire. And perhaps a bit of Suleiman's too. Now let us step quietly away from the clamor of armies and the weight of campaigns and into the hushed stillness of a treasury. Within the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, a place of gilded halls and shaded courtyards, lies a collection of objects that once defined the grandeur of the Ottoman court. Among them rests one of the most famous treasures in the world, the Topkapi Dagger. Picture it under the soft glow of lamplight. Its hilt and sheath are adorned with gold, encrusted with 3 large emeralds that catch and hold the eye, their green depths shimmering like frozen forest pools. Along its surface, delicate filigree and enamel work reveal the hand of artisans whose patience extended over countless hours. It is both weapon and ornament, a blade and a jewel. But the dagger is more than a glittering object. It carries with it a story. In the mid-18th century, it was commissioned by the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire as a diplomatic gift for the Shah of Persia. Relations between the two empires had long swung between rivalry and uneasy peace. A gift such as this, magnificent in its craftsmanship, was meant not only as an offering of goodwill, but also as a subtle reminder of Ottoman superiority. For to present an object so dazzling was to remind the recipient of the wealth, skill, and majesty of the Sultan's court. Yet fate intervened. Before the dagger could be delivered, the Shah of Persia died. The gift was never sent. Instead, it remained in Istanbul, slipping quietly from a gesture of diplomacy into a relic of mystery. It is hard to overstate the influence of the Ottomans on world history. Emerging in the 13th century from the heart of Anatolia, they would go on to conquer vast swaths of the Middle East, North Africa, and Eastern Europe. At their zenith during the 16th and 17th centuries, their empire stretched from the borders of Poland in the north to the Arabian Peninsula in the south, a testament to their military prowess and strategic brilliance. This longevity and expanse have often overshadowed the artistic and cultural contributions of the Ottomans. Yet it is precisely this aspect that the Topkapi Dagger so eloquently displays. The design of the dagger reflects the fusion of cultures that occurred within the Ottoman Empire. The blade itself, double-edged and slightly curved, is of Persian inspiration. This was a style favored by the elite warriors of the horse-riding nomads of Central Asia. But the hilt, the crossguard, and the sheath are typical of Ottoman craftsmanship. These elements, when combined, do not merely form a weapon, but become a symbol of cultural exchange, a silent ambassador of two distinct yet interconnected worlds. The materials used in the dagger's construction further enhance its significance. The scabbard or sheath is made of wood and covered with crimson velvet, a rich material associated with luxury and power. It is decorated with gold tooling that mirrors the intricate patterns found on many Ottoman weapons and artifacts. The belt hook and the suspension ring are crafted from gold, a precious metal that symbolized wealth and prestige. And then come the emeralds, set into the grip of the dagger. These are not merely decorative. They are symbols of the Ottomans' control over valuable resources and their ability to acquire materials coveted by all world powers. But what is perhaps most captivating about the Topkapi Dagger is its inscription. Etched along the blade is a single line in Arabic script. It reads, "There is no victor except God." Such religious iconography was not uncommon in the Ottoman Empire, which saw itself as a champion of Islam. The inclusion of this phrase reminds us that the Ottomans were not just a political entity, but a community bound together by faith, culture, and a common identity. The Topkapi Dagger is more than an artifact. It is a window into a world gone by. It speaks of a time when diplomacy was conducted through gifts, when rivalries were eased with displays of wealth, and when a simple weapon could carry the weight of cultural exchange, religious belief, and political strategy. As we gaze upon this emerald-studded blade, we are transported back in time, invited to appreciate the artistry, the ambition, and the complexities of one of history's most influential empires. In the heart of Istanbul, within the hallowed halls of the Topkapi Palace, this dagger continues to captivate all who behold it, a silent testament to the grandeur of the Ottoman Empire. The year is 1520. A ship has just docked in Venice, bringing with it a curious cargo, 2 daggers crafted from pure gold and encrusted with emeralds. They were a gift from the Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent to the Doge of Venice, a gesture of diplomacy, an exhibition of wealth. But one dagger was not for the Doge. It was a gift within a gift, intended for the most favored of his courtiers. Now, imagine the whispers that might have followed it through the palace halls. Courtiers speculating about the omen of an undelivered gift, officials debating whether to send it on or to keep it, craftsmen admiring their handiwork while soldiers guarded it with silent vigilance. The dagger passed from hand to hand, from ruler to subject, always remaining an object of fascination, but never quite spoken about. Was it a symbol of trust, of friendship, or simply a reminder of the precarious balance of power in this vast, luxurious world? Over time, the dagger became less a tool of politics, and more an emblem of the empire's treasures coveted, admired, and in later years, the subject of daring attempts at theft. The story of the Topkapi Dagger, so named because it is now held in the Topkapi Palace Museum, is not one of bloodshed or political intrigue. Its tale is written in the silent language of stones and metals. Emeralds from far-off mines, gold from distant lands, all brought together in the heart of Istanbul. In the 18th century, it left the palace, becoming a part of the personal collection of the Sultan. Then in the 19th century, it was purchased by the museum, and since then, it's drawn the eyes of the world. The dagger has never been used in battle. It has never drawn blood. Its power lies not in violence, but in presence. And now we are here in the 21st century standing before it. We see it not just as a historical artifact, but as a piece of enduring legend. And this legend has bled into fiction. In the 1960s, the Topkapi Dagger was immortalized in a famous novel, later adapted into a film. It was called The Thomas Crown Affair. In the story, a billionaire steals the dagger, not out of greed, but for the sheer audacity of the heist. This fictional tale overlaid another layer on the dagger's story, making it a symbol of irresistible allure. But let's return to reality. The Topkapi Dagger is surrounded by other treasures, each with its own tale to tell. There's a ring inlaid with rubies and diamonds, a necklace crafted with such complexity it seems almost mechanical, and a belt made of pure gold, studded with pearls. These objects didn't just adorn the Sultan's court. They were a silent, glittering commentary on the politics of the day. Gifts from far-off lands, they marked not just the Sultan's wealth, but the bonds and rivalries of his age. As you take in the sight, consider this. Each of these items was once a part of someone's life. A sultan, a courtier, a diplomat. They lived, they breathed, they moved through these magnificent halls with these treasures upon them. And in doing so, they imbued these objects with a kind of life force, a silent echo of their former owners. Let's linger a while longer. Imagine the soft murmur of voices echoing in the vast halls, the clink of glasses as unseen diplomats toasted obscure alliances. See the courtiers in their finest garments, each fold and curve a statement in the language of the elite. And above it all, Hear the soft tread of the sultan as he makes his way through the day, each step a measured beat in the intricate rhythm of the court. It's a scene frozen in time, preserved in the very heart of Istanbul. The Topkapi Dagger, no longer a mere weapon, has become an emblem of an era. Its story, like that of many great works of art, has been shaped not just by history, but by our collective imagination. As you prepare to leave this place, take a final look around. Let your gaze linger on the artifacts, the paintings, the very architecture around you. You're not just a visitor. You're a time traveler who has stepped into a world that was, a world that is no more. You've seen the trappings of power, the symbols of wealth, and perhaps even caught a glimpse of the lives those objects once adorned. And as you exit the museum, carry a piece of this world within you, a reminder that history is not just in books or documentaries, but alive and breathing in every corner of our world, waiting for us to discover and understand it. You might think of ancient Rome, of gladiators and chariot races and a vast empire. What if I told you that there's a place in Turkey where you can experience something similar? A place frozen in time where you can feel the pulse of an empire at its zenith? Welcome to the extraordinary world of the Topkapi Palace. The year is 1453. The mighty Ottoman army led by Sultan Mehmed II has just conquered Constantinople, a city steeped in Roman history, and now the Sultan is preparing to make it his home. As the sun sets over the Bosphorus, casting long shadows across the new capital, a monumental decision is made. The Sultan will construct a new palace here, a seat of power that will outshine even the glories of Rome. Over the next 4 centuries, the Topkapi Palace stands as the home of 17 sultans. Each ruler adds their own touch to the palace, layer upon layer, ceremony upon ceremony, creating a labyrinth of power. Now, imagine yourself walking through the gates of the Topkapi Palace. The sound of the city fades behind you. Inside, the air feels hushed, shaded by cypress and plane trees, with fountains murmuring softly in the courtyards. This is not merely a residence. It is a stage upon which the life of the Ottoman Sultan unfolds, layer by layer, ceremony upon ceremony. Entering the palace grounds, you find yourself in the outer court. Here, the atmosphere is lively. Officials, soldiers, and petitioners go about their business, their voices echoing in the spacious courtyards. It is a place of both order and activity, where the machinery of the empire is set in motion. But beyond this outer shell lies a world of increasing secrecy. Passing through the first gate, you begin your journey toward the heart of power. The second courtyard is quieter. Here, the air grows cooler under the shade of plane trees. In summer, the Sultan might appear on a balcony above, surveying his domain. It is a place of transition, a pause before the true center of the palace is revealed. As you approach the third courtyard, the atmosphere shifts. Cypress trees rise like solemn sentinels, their branches forming a tunnel overhead. This is the entrance to the private apartments of the Sultan. Only those with the highest clearance are permitted to enter. Here, daily life in the court of the Ottomans is played out. Imagine attendants move in quietly through polished halls, carrying trays of food and dishes of silver and porcelain. Servants wearing embroidered garments stood ready, their movements rehearsed until they seemed almost like part of the architecture. It's not just the mechanics of daily life that are fascinating, but also the art that surrounds them. Walls are adorned with exquisite tiles, each piece a miniature work of art. In the courtyards, fountains spray water into the air, their surfaces reflecting the intricate patterns above. Every detail, from the play of light and shadow to the whisper of fabric on marble, is designed to impress and to remind all who enter of the magnificence of the Ottoman Empire. Even the gardens are not merely a place of beauty, but a carefully designed part of the palace's machinery. Walking through them, you might see figures moving between the trees, playing chess or conversing in hushed tones. For in this court, even a simple stroll is a potential audience with the powerful. At the center of it all is the sultan, the focal point of this intricate world. When he appears in public, it is with deliberate grandeur. Picture him seated beneath a canopy of silk, his robes woven with threads of gold, a turban towering high above his brow. Courtiers bow low, their voices hushed. To look upon the sultan was to witness power embodied. And yet, much of his life was one of confinement within the palace walls. His chambers, richly decorated as they were also a symbol of his captivity. Windows were designed to limit his view, often overlooking not the grandeur of the empire, but a blank wall or service courtyard. He might have gazed out at the sprawling city he ruled, but he could not see the bustling streets or the lives of his subjects. Instead, his world was defined by the rituals of the palace, the endless ceremonies that marked every aspect of his existence. Beyond the sultan's presence, the harem occupied a central place in palace life. Despite the way it has often been imagined in Western Kayleys, it was not simply a place of indulgence. It was a highly structured institution where women of education and influence lived, many of them wives, concubines, and daughters of the sultan. At the pinnacle stood the lady sultan, the sultan's mother, whose authority within the harem often extended into the broader politics of the empire. Decisions made in whispered conversations within those chambers could ripple outward to shape the fate of provinces and armies. As you explore the harem, you might pause in a room set aside for mothers and their young children, a rare glimpse into the domestic side of the Ottoman court. Or perhaps you'll wander into a library filled with ancient texts, where the scent of parchment mingles with the murmur of scholars at work. Each chamber is a testament to the richness and complexity of life in the palace. Your journey through the Topkapi Palace has come to an end. You step back out into the sunlight, the sounds and smells of Istanbul washing over you. The palace, with its echoes of empires past, seems to shimmer in the heat, a reminder that some places hold the secrets of history so closely, they feel as though they might step out from the past and touch you in the present. And then there were the banquets and ceremonies. Imagine the great feasts held in celebration of military victories or religious holidays. Long tables laden with rice pilaf, roasted lamb, sherbet sweetened with honey, and fruits glistening like jewels. Music filled the air flutes, lutes, and drums weaving a steady rhythm. For guests, it was a display of endless abundance. For courtiers, it was also a moment of competition, a chance to be seen, to be advanced, to win the sultan's fleeting attention. But beneath the splendor lay tension. The court was a place of beauty, but also of intrigue. Alliances shifted like the breeze through the gardens. A single word, a single favor granted or withheld, could determine the rise or fall of a career. And so, many who lived there walked carefully, smiling in ceremony, while guarding their thoughts. For those outside the palace, life was very different. A merchant in Istanbul might wake before dawn, open his stall in the bustling bazaar, and spend the day trading goods brought from as far as Cairo, Venice, or Samarkand. A fisherman might haul nets from the Bosporus at sunrise, while a farmer in Anatolia bent to tend his wheat fields. These lives were humble, yet steady, and far removed from the layered rituals of the palace. The contrast was striking, the simplicity of the many set against the pageantry of the few. And so, the Sultan's court becomes, in memory, both dazzling and distant. A world of silks and shadows, rituals and rivalries, where each day was a performance in the great theater of empire. To walk those halls was to step into a carefully woven tapestry of power, beauty, and silence. Now, as we leave the palace behind, let us also begin to drift gently out of the empire's world. Our journey has carried us from the barracks of the janissaries, through the campaigns of Suleiman, into the treasury of the Topkapi Dagger, and finally into the ceremonial life of the Sultan's court. Soon, we will bring these threads together in a soft conclusion, one that eases us back into the present moment. But for now, let us linger a while longer, for the sights and sounds of old Istanbul still echo through these chambers. Picture the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith at work, shaping iron in the Sultan's armory, each hammer blow a percussive note in the city's grand symphony. Or wander with me through the bustling Grand Bazaar, where the air hums with the energy of merchants and travelers from distant lands, their voices mingling with the melodies of street musicians. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, imagine the call to prayer echoing from the minarets, its haunting melody a reminder of the empire's devotion. In the tranquil courtyards of the palace, envision the soft murmur of fountains as they dance and sparkle in the fading light. Listen closely and you might just hear the whisper of history, the echoes of sultans and courtiers long gone, their footsteps imprinted on the marble stones. The opulence of the past is palpable here, woven into the very fabric of the palace walls. Now, as the night sky glitters with stars, let us return to the bustling heart of Istanbul. In the dimly lit taverns and tea houses, picture the laughter and chatter of storytellers sharing tales of adventure and romance. The air is thick with the aroma of sweet Turkish delight and the earthy taste of freshly brewed coffee, mingling with the smoke of nargile pipes. It is a place where dreams are spun and destinies intertwined. As the night deepens, the streets come alive with the soft glow of oil lamp. Street vendors make their rounds, their voices echoing through the narrow alleys. The rhythmic beat of a distant drum mingles with the haunting strains of a lute, creating a mesmerizing soundscape. And then, above it all, as the moon climbs higher in the velvet sky, the haunting call to prayer once again fills the air, marking the passage of time in this timeless city. Now, my friends, it is time for us to awaken from our journey through time. Though our adventure in Istanbul's old palace comes to an end today, the spirit of discovery and the echoes of the Ottoman Empire live on within us. Carry a piece of this magnificent history in your heart as you explore more wonders of Istanbul and beyond. Thanks for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this experience, I invite you to subscribe for more captivating historical tales. Together, let's keep the stories alive and the echoes of the past resounding in our present moment. We return to the great city of Istanbul, where the Golden Horn meets the dreaming sea. Here, in the Sultan's palace, or rather the one who was destined to become the Sultan's palace, lived a man named Oped. He tended the royal pigeons, strutting and preening them for the amusement of the Sultan's children. He wasn't born to this task. No one is born to be a footnote in someone else's rise to power. But the Sultan's whims are absolute and inescapable. So when he took a liking to having his birds tended by a young man with nimble fingers and a quick smile, Ahmed became the Sultan's pigeon man. This was how life twisted in the Ottoman Empire, where fortunes were made. Unbroken on the turn of a whim, where boys became men and men became monsters in the name of duty and honor. Here, in the shadow of the vast palace walls, we met the Sultan's elite soldiers, the janissaries. These boys, ripped from their families, reshaped into tools of war and terror, they became the Sultan's most trusted weapon, a testament to the empire's power and ruthlessness. We watched as they drilled, their bodies a symphony of controlled power, their movements echoing the heartbeat of the city itself. We saw the Janissary recruits in the courtyard, their innocence a haunting counterpoint to the brutal reality of their new lives. With each drill, they shed a piece of their former selves until all that remained was the cold, hard edge of a soldier. Life in the Ottoman Empire demanded such sacrifices, crushing individuality under the relentless wheel of duty and obedience. In the Janissary's case, it was a fate worse than death, a living death where hearts were turned to stone and souls to ash. Yet, even amidst this grim tableau, there were glimmers of humanity. The Janissary Sheikh Ubaid offered a moment of respite, a reminder that even in the darkest corners, compassion could bloom. But the empire's demands were merciless, leaving little room for sentiment. And the janissaries, once human, became vessels of destruction, their humanity sacrificed at the altar of obedience. Then we walked with Suleiman the Magnificent, the sultan whose very name echoed with power and glory. We marveled at his victories, his legal reforms, and the sheer force of his personality. He was a man who straddled two worlds, the old and the new, tradition and change. Yet even in his triumphs, there was a quiet sorrow, a constant awareness of the fragility of power and the relentless march of time. For Suleiman, every sunrise was a victory, but every sunset brought him closer to oblivion. His empire stretched from the deserts of Arabia to the heart of Europe, and his rule was a study in contrasts. Like the dagger he held, the Topkapi Dagger, a symbol of wealth and power, but also a silent witness to the machinations of empire. It was meant to be a gift, yet ended up as a relic, its emerald hilt whispering tales of diplomatic battles, lost loves, and the passage of time. Its beauty was a reminder of the empire's decadence, but also of the transience of all things, even the greatest empires. Through the palace we wandered, meeting those who served the sultan, from the humble cook to the cunning viziers. We witnessed the grand ceremonies, the lavish feasts, and the deadly games that played out in the gilded cage of the imperial court. Here, beneath the shimmering silks and the soft candlelight, simmered a world of intrigue, of whispered plots and hidden loyalties. The palace walls were a stage, and those who lived within them were players in a game of constant negotiation. Power was a drug, and those who craved it consumed it with a desperate hunger. In this intoxicating world, the line between brilliance and madness was a razor-thin edge. And the sultan, the very center of it all, held the deadliest power of all, the power to bestow favor or to crush enemies with the slightest turn of his hand. As you stand here, amidst the ghosts of sultans and janissaries, remember this: everything here is gone. Now the janissaries no longer drill in the courtyard. The sultan's throne is empty. The Topkapi Dagger is locked away. The palace is a whisper, a memory, a dream. You are awake. You are here. And the world, with all its weight and wonder, is yours. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support us, please consider becoming a patron. Your support allows us to keep bringing these historical tales to life. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an exciting episode. Until next time, sleep well and dream of old Istanbul.
Tonight's story comes to a close. If your eyes have gently shut, then I wish you a deep, peaceful sleep. Until we meet again in the next dream.